Paranormal Dimensions is a regular feature on Mondays on the Paranormal UK radio network. Any opinions or comments made by any guest are their own, and they do not necessarily reflect any of the presenters or network's opinions.
If it does turn out to be alien, it's such a game-changing, paradigm-shifting revelation that the impact, the consequences are almost incalculable. And that being the case, you have to take it seriously.
Hello, this is Nick Pope, and you're listening to the Paranormal UK radio network, the UK's biggest paranormal network. And this is Paranormal Dimensions with David Young.
Going to be definitely interesting, something you don't want to miss.
Hello and welcome to the show. Thank you for that introduction, Nick. Now, today's guest is James Welsh. Now, James had a book that came out in 2014 called Corroborating Evidence. It was the UFO investigation of the millennium. But just before I introduce James, I'll just read part of the introduction by UFO author and investigator Ron Halliday. It says, all those interested in the UFO phenomenon should congratulate James Welsh for his incredible effort in putting together all the evidence presented in this book. It's an amazing achievement, which in its scope sheds more light on the mystery of what we call unidentified flying objects, but in addition asks us to consider many questions about the nature of the universe and the world we live in. James has examined and compiled evidence from across the globe which clearly demonstrates that this phenomenon is not only pervasive but genuine, no matter what skeptics might claim. I'd ask doubters to go through the evidence compiled in this book and still try to argue with a straight face that is all in the imagination. Okay, on the back of the book it says, corroborating evidence is the result of a 14-year investigation into a series of UFO sightings which took place during December 1999. Author James Welsh became eyewitness to a series of UFO encounters in Glasgow, Scotland, which motivated him into making an official UFO report. That began what was to become the UFO investigation of the millennium. On August 31st, 2012, he discovered the hidden presence of a cloaked UFO on NASA's STS-103 Hubble servicing mission images. Up until now, anomalies captured on NASA footage have been dismissed as ice crystals and space debris. This object cannot be categorized quite as easily and will leave NASA with a lot of explaining to do. Okay, now, on from this book, James has been doing a lot more research, and so things have gone quite a way on beyond this original book, and things have developed quite rapidly recently, which I'm sure you'll hear James talking about. So there we are. We'll get into talking to James in a moment. But just before that, if anyone would like to get in touch with me at any time, my email address is davidyoung2qn@yahoo.co.uk. That's davidyoung2qn@yahoo.co.uk. And don't forget, there's a Facebook show page that you can have a look in on. And please say hello and come and join it. Okay, just before I start the show, I've got to make an apology. For about the first half an hour of this interview, you'll find like a strange echoing sound. It sounds like James is speaking from another dimension. That's my fault. I actually forgot to plug my earphones in. I had been talking to James for quite a while before the show. We were having a bit of trouble with Skype and everything. And of course I could just speak to him straight out of my computer. But I'd actually forgotten that I need to have my earphones plugged in when I'm speaking to James to record it. So if you'll forgive me, that's my fault. I'm not a professional. I'm hoping you'll put up with the echo sound that's on James's voice, mostly. I'm sorry about that, but after about half an hour that goes, so you've got about 2 hours, roughly, or just under, of James and you can hear him properly. So I'm sorry about that, but you can still hear what James is talking about, so I hope you'll forgive me for that. So, with that said, I'll bring James on. I'm sure you'll find the whole interview fascinating. So, I'll welcome James Francis Welsh. Hello James, welcome to the show.
Good evening, world. Good evening, David.
Hello, mate. How you doing?
I'm doing grand, mate. I'm doing grand. I'm very tired, exhausted, mentally exhausted. I've been playing cosmic chess, you know, with a grandmaster for another planet for a long time, you know. Yeah. I'm mentally exhausted.
I know you've told me quite a bit offline about certain things. I know you've been having some really strange experiences, which we're not going to go into at the moment. But I'd like to, I think we first met around about 2015, wasn't it?
That'll be correct, that'll be right, down in England at the Smelly Truth Conference.
Yeah. I'm not quite sure if we spoke much there, but I think we really got sort of talking at the Glasgow conference. I think that was the year after, wasn't it?
9 months. 9 months
and then we had something else where we were thrown together more in a bigger way.
This is it. Yeah, we helped expose the biggest pawn in ufology in the last 30, 40 years.
Yeah, we'll talk a bit about that later. But I think what we ought to point out is that you wrote a book called Corroborating Evidence, the UFO Investigation of the Millennium. I'll put my teeth back in a minute. But now you wrote that in 2014, and it was about your own experiences.
Yep.
Can you tell us, would you like to tell us about how you came to write that book, James?
Oh, okay. Well, basically it started with two sightings that I had on the 4th of December 1999 at 4:45 in the morning, and then 15 minutes later at 5 o'clock. 6 days later I had another UFO sighting, and I took a note at the time, and it was 4:45 in the evening. And I thought, 4:45, that's coincidental, you know, I had my sighting at 4:45 a week ago, you know.
Yeah, that's weird.
So I found that quite interesting. But then, 12 hours later, at 4:45 in the morning again, I have another sighting. And that was a close range sighting. So that was the 11th. On the 14th, I had another close range sighting. It was an overhead flyby in the town centre. And when I got home from work the following morning at 2:30, the following morning on the 15th of December, I phoned Glasgow Air Traffic Control and logged the longest UFO report for the entire year of 1999. So that was that. So I had sightings basically on the 4th, the 10th, the 11th, the 14th, 15th and 25th December that month. And two of these sightings involved military jets chasing these UFOs. So obviously these weren't just your average, you know, a wee persistent point of light in the sky and anything. These were close range sightings, 500 feet, 700 feet away. There was interaction between myself and the UFO, but I didn't know exactly how much at the time until June this year.
Was that like a mental interaction?
Well, I was standing in front of the thing, and it lit off all sorts of lights, and we were convinced that it was talking with another one, but it turns out that the two craft that we thought we were observing was actually just the one. It was actually, we thought we were looking at oval white UFOs, but they weren't. They were actually the big lights off one of these triangle UFOs. And obviously we weren't looking for the platform or anything, we were only looking at the oval white in the sky in front of us. And as I say, when this thing came up, and as I say, I'm going to have to reevaluate all my own personal sightings now, because I now know much better as to exactly what happened. But as I say, on the 11th, we seen this thing coming down, and then we seen another oval UFO appear to materialise right beside it for a moment and then disappear. But we realise now, I realise now that the UFO was actually just blanking round, and we were actually seeing one of the lights on the underside for a brief moment as it banked round and sat stationary in front of us. So, the long and short of it is I had all these sightings, and I felt that they were really important. And I thought, well, you know, if you see something like that, you can't not go running off into the world and start screaming and telling everybody, you know, spaceships, I mean, that's exactly what it was. It was a case of, Arkham's Razor. You know, it was a case of, I'm looking at it, it's not moving, therefore it's not a plane. It was close enough, to be near us. If it was a helicopter, we would have heard it was a helicopter. So straight away, I went through the checklist, and it wasn't a plane, it wasn't a helicopter, but it was letting off all these technological lights, so I knew it was a technological object. And the obvious answer hit me there and then that it was a UFO. It had to be, because it wasn't a plane and it wasn't a helicopter. So that was my logic at the time. So as I say, I reported these sightings on the 14th, or the early hours of the 15th, I should say. And it wasn't until 2001 that I actually started researching the matter quite seriously. And I started buying UFO magazine when Graham Birdsall was on it. So I think it was June 2001. I got the copy of the magazine, and there was an article in it about a student in Glasgow that had managed to photograph a UFO over the city in December 2000. So this was like a year after my sighting. Somebody's managed to get photographing something, and that got me to contact Graham Birdsall. And I phoned him. He was just getting ready to go home for the day, and I explained what had happened to me. And he told me to write an account down, and he would publish it in the magazine. So I started writing the account down, and then I also decided that I should get in touch with Scotland's leading UFO researcher, Ron Halliday. So I got in touch with him as well, and sent him and Graham both my written account of what happened during those nights in December. So Ron came out to see me in 2001, early 2002, Ron came out to see me on the 15th of February, and I organised all the other eyewitnesses that had been involved that month. So we came round, I got to introduce something to everyone, and you know, we all went through our own involvement in what happened that month. And also got to see footage of UFO footage from Livingston, from a woman called Sandra Whelan, who managed to record footage over a few days in the days leading up to my first sighting. So as I say, 2001, the ball really started getting rolling with the research, and it started with myself just writing letters to the police, the RAF, the Ministry of Defence, the Civil Aviation Authority, just looking for general inquiries, just making general inquiries basically, just to dip my toe in the water to see what they had to say. I realised that I was on swings and roundabouts when I wrote to the Ministry of Defence and posed them the same question that I posed to the CAA, the Civil Aviation Authority. And the Civil Aviation Authority told me that they have no remit over military aircraft flying over Glasgow. I would need to get in touch with the Ministry of Defence. The Ministry of Defence told me that they have no remit over military aircraft flying over controlled airspace. I would need to get in touch with the Civil Aviation Authority. So it was at that point I realised that I was actually getting conflicting answers off these various government entities, and I decided that I was basically knocking on all the wrong doors. So I figured, well, you know, I'm looking at my own experiences through a set of blinkers, and if I actually want to try and find out what's going on round about me, then I need to remove the blinkers and I need to take a bird's eye view of what's going on. So from that and that visualisation of taking a bird's eye view, I decided that I should actually expand my research to start looking for other UFO reports that were made during December 1999. Now the objective of that exercise was to go through and find as many detailed accounts as I could, or matching descriptions to the ones that I provided in my 2001 written account. So basically, that was the whole essence of that research, was to try and find matching descriptions to a paper that I had already previously published. And that was the sort of main thrust of the exercise behind corroborating evidence. So it ended up expanding into a chronological account of UFO sightings going back as far as 1898, all the way up to 1999. So it was a 101-year chronology, just basically taking you through a lot of these UFO sightings where there was slimmer descriptions. And then once we get up to 1999, then I specifically focused just on December 1999, and also then incorporated my own sightings with the timeline, so you could see an actual chronological breakdown of these sightings as they were taking place around the world. So I did all that, and then we're now going back to 2012, August, around about August 2012, and when I got to editing December the 19th, I mean, I still, at this point, I was still working on the book, I was still trying to just concentrate on my own stuff, and when I got to December the 19th, I remembered that was the date that they launched the Discovery to repair the Hubble Space Telescope. And I knew already that I had 3 individual frames from that mission, frames 58, 59 and 73. And I had all the information for these 3 frames all on, different documents and stuff like that. So I pulled these 3 URLs together into the one place, and I had them sitting in front of me. And that's when I realised that the URL addresses for this NASA website were all identical. So the only difference between the URLs was the frame number at the end. So based on that, I thought, well, if I just go up and I'll start changing the digits at the last of the URL, hopefully that should take me up and down the mission frames. And I did that, and it worked. So going right back to, as I say, 2012, I start looking through all these NASA photographs, because in frame 58 or frame 59 specifically, there is a blue-white oval UFO in one of these NASA photos, and it's pretty much what I thought I'd seen that one. It is what I'd seen that one, but so I was quite taken by this, and then again on frame 73, there is also a structured object. It seems to be flying past the Hubble as the redeployment's taking place. So I was really intrigued at the fact that here we had an official NASA photograph with a solid physical object that you could look at. This wasn't a bloody light in the distance or anything. This was an actual thing with structure on it, and shadows and form to it and features. So it looked the real deal. But NASA at the time were saying that this was just basically, it was a reflection of the interior of the shuttle. And I thought, no, that's not right. There's no way that is the interior of the space shuttle. So I ended up doing research on that and got the interior of the Discovery, and nowhere within the interior of the flight deck can any of these details be found. So that was outruled pretty much straight away.
Yeah, I'm actually looking at the photo you're talking about now.
The 73. Yeah. So so I knew that what NASA was saying didn't make sense, and obviously because I had such a vested interest in trying to find quote-unquote corroborating evidence of UFO activity during that part of the world, during that part of that time frame, I should say. Obviously I was very, very interested in what was in these NASA photos, because if maybe I'd done enough research, I would maybe find hard evidence which would support everything that I had written already, trying to prove that these things happened to me. So that was a big thrust and goal into looking into the NASA photos. And so I managed to pulled together a sequence of photographs starting from, I don't know why I stopped here, or not started here, but I started with frame 66 and I made my way all the way up to frame 76. But I also included obviously frame 58 and 59. But I specifically stuck to this sequence during the redeployment with the structural craft. So once I actually laid out the 10 of these photographs from frame 66 to 76, and I had them all laid out in front of me, the UFO, the anomaly, let's just call it the 103 anomaly, it appears, as I say, in frame 66, 67, 68, and then it seems to disappear in frame 69. Then there's a sort of ghost image of something in frame 70, and then you see it in frame 71, 72, 73, 74, 75, and 76. So you're looking at all these photographs, 10 photographs, but it's missing in the middle photo, and I'm thinking, well, it's in the photo before, and it's in the photo afterwards. So why is it not in this frame 69? I could not get my head round how it could appear in the photo before and the photo afterwards, but not in the one in the middle. So I thought about it, and then eventually logic got a hold of me and said, look, the reason you can't see it is because it's still there, it's just you cannot see it. It was only, logic told me it had to still be there, it was just invisible. And that gave me the encouragement to look into that frame in particular, even with even greater pause, you know. So, on August the 31st, 2000, I had been working on trying to extract this small bit of detail from frame 69, and I managed to pull this detail out of the picture, but because I was that focused on this tiny small bit of detail at the time, I had my screen enlarged and everything. So by the time I've actually zoomed back and realised exactly what I've managed to pull out of this photograph, I was pretty shocked at the time, as you can imagine, but I still didn't know what I was looking at until the 31st August 2012, when I suddenly realised what it was. And then I was stuck to the ceiling for literally 3 weeks. I mean, literally, you know, anti-gravity, you just had to come to me. I was living proof of that. So what happened was, with frame 69, I've extracted this object, and on this object is a large dark area, and I could not figure out what this was. I started to think that it could be possibly some sort of feature on the craft. But then I started to think like a photographer, and I realised that the reason that this area was darker on the photograph was because that there was a lack of light hitting that particular area. There was something obscuring the light from hitting that area, and this is what was causing this bit to be darker. Therefore it was a shadow. And when I realised that, it suddenly hit me what the shape of this dark area was, and it was the shadow profile of the Hubble Space Telescope on the hull of this UFO. So as you can imagine, that was me. It just automatically stuck to the ceiling. 3 weeks I was up there, absolutely frantic, that I realised that I had discovered the shadow of the Hubble Space Telescope on the hull of a solid physical object. And the reason being is because if the object wasn't there, there would have been nothing for the shadow to be cast upon. And therefore, the shadow being cast on that showed that this was a real physical object in orbit with the Hubble and the orbiter. So that was corroborating evidence. You know, it was like I've actually now been able to establish that this object in frame 73 that NASA says is a reflection is not a reflection, it's a solid physical object in orbit. So that was August 31st, 2012. So once I sort of scraped myself off the ceiling, I basically continued getting all this information down, and you know, getting the book all ready, and I got it out. Actually, 7 years ago today, David.
Oh, is it today? Wow.
7 years ago today, actually, I forgot about that. That's why I've been so frantic to try and get this information out for today. I suppose, you know, I'm one for my symbolic dates and everything, you know.
Yeah, that must mean something, mustn't it? That's weird.
Well, the reason I put the book out 7 years ago today was because obviously it was the 8th of July 1947 was the date that the Roswell Daily Record first published in the newspaper saying that the United States Air Force had recovered a flying disc. So I thought, well, I've got, you know, something just as newsworthy and something just as solid, shall we say. So I thought, well, I found it quite fitting to put my information out on the same date because it all sort of tied in with the cosmic symbology of it all, you know. So that was that. So, and here we are again, as I say, 7 years to the day that I put the book out, and today I've just launched the results of my recent research that's been getting carried out just through June, which is, I mean, virtually we're on the 8th of July just now. From the 8th of June right up until now, I have been doing the work of an army, and I'm quite surprised at how much I've actually managed to get myself through over the course of this month, you know. Yeah. So it's been a long hard struggle this month, but it's most definitely been worth it because I know so much more now than I did, you know, a few weeks ago.
Yeah, well, that's what I meant when I referred to you. You've been working so hard lately. I know you've been quiet for like months on end, but all of a sudden everything's coming from James.
I mean, you know yourself, David, I've been very inactive over the last few years with regards to my research. Kinda left my ufology. I hung my hat up, and I thought.
I know you were very disillusioned with it all.
I was. Ufology really left a bad taste in my mouth after, as I say, around about the time we met and everything. And it was all to do with
it wasn't me, was it? I don't think.
No, nothing to do with you. No, it was all the stuff that came to light with that horrible scam artist, Larry Warren, when he came up to Glasgow, started to tell me that he met Carrie Fisher in my bar and all this carry on, and then he's telling the same story 9 months later, but it's a different person.
And at that time, we were all believers, weren't we then?
Well, this is it. We believed him, you know, but we seen through him, and it was do you know what? He made his own bed, and it's his own fault, and he's only got himself to blame for all his fakery, and he caught himself out by his own lies. So it's his own fault, and him and Gary Heseltine, I mean, the whole thing with Dion Johnson and Capel Green, total scam. I can't believe that Gary Heseltine thinks he can get away with producing this mockumentary about the life of Larry Warren after it's already been established that the guy was never involved in the Rendlesham Forest events. His book's been removed, his co-author separated from him, cut all ties with him. Mr. Heseltine was given evidence of Mr. Warren's numerous frauds on the public, but continued to work with him. So, as I say, I was absolutely disgusted that ufology was heading in that direction, and as a genuine experiencer, and as it now turns out, a contactee of CE4 experiencer. And now I know why this kind of thing left a really bad taste in my mouth, but obviously I couldn't put my finger on it until recently.
Yeah. Well, you went through a bad time, so I know you were getting threatened, and also, well, there was quite a few threats flying around, wasn't there?
Like a mice from Mars coming to get me, I know. Mr. Warren and his death threats, you know. Yeah. But at the end of the day, you know, I'm not going to let these people sideline me from the real thing, you know. And that, again, this is what sort of seen my return to ufology, was seeing the damage that was being done to it by certain people, putting out certain material, and certain absolute rubbish that was getting bandied around the world. And then, you know, like, for talk's sake, the night vision footage that Jeremy Corbell put out, of the 737 filmed under a night vision scope. And then the Navy confirmed that the footage was real. The world was going crazy. Oh, the Navy have admitted it's real. And you're like, no, it's real footage of a 737 commercial airliner. What's the big deal, you know? So that was, all this kind of stuff was whirling about my head, and it was getting me really upset that the fact that all this fakery and mundane footage of everyday objects were getting sensationalised, when I knew that I was sitting on top of real, proper, hard evidence.
Well, the thing is, do you think that Corbell actually knows he was faking it, or was he just mistaken?
I think he just never paid due diligence. He's a filmmaker, he's not a researcher. No. He's admitted that much. So, no, he didn't pay due diligence before he put his information out. And whether or not he just wanted to try and sensationalise the subject, or whether he has the subject matter at heart, I really don't know. I don't know the guy. But as I say, it just hurt me when I seen this kind of, you know, here's a bin liner floating about in the wind. Oh, you know, the Navy says it's real, you know. Oh.
Yeah. I mean, even you got to say, James, that even the best researchers have made mistakes occasionally about things, but they usually come out and sort of admit it, don't they? And say, okay, I was taken in with that one. And I think that's what leaves the sour taste in your mouth when you know that somebody's still going along with a fraud sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you know yourself, ufology, it's such a big subject, and there's so many people out there that really want to jump on it and try and use it for their own ends, for financial gain or whatever. And it is disheartening, but it's a world we live in, and unfortunately these people exist in every trade, and you know, they're out.
Life, every walk of life.
Out there, mate. Yep, this is true. So there's no point in spending energy on, you know, getting upset with these people. You've just got to brush them off and get on with it and do your own thing, because if you spend too much time thinking about it there, you know, you're not going to get anywhere yourself. So you just got to ignore them.
I mean, I think people become wise to those type of people anyway, don't they? And they get put into a certain category, and people just don't really relate to them anymore. You know, once you've been in the UFO business or the paranormal business or any type of thing like that, once you know, you seem to get to know who the frauds are. Yeah. You know, and you and I know a few.
Unfortunately, sadly. But the main thing is, I mean, the subject matter now obviously is really big. I mean, but the Sun, if you speak to any Sun journalist or any of the editorial team over the phone, they'll tell you that what I have is something that the public, or not the public aren't interested, but it's not it's not a story they're interested in running. So they've been given 3, maybe 4 opportunities now to publish my stuff, and they keep knocking me back. So when this stuff goes mainstream, and they come knocking at my door, they are getting sent home with nothing to eat. So, they're not interested in the biggest story of mankind, which I am helping to unravel and, you know, convey to earthlings all over the world. I mean, my research has went kind of skyrocketed the past few weeks. Literally, I've not just taken leaps and bounds, but I've taken light years advance on where I was in 2012 and 2014 with Hubble research, and now it's pretty much published this morning, small levels of this morning, and it's out there now. So we'll see if it does. We'll see if it gets the same sort of sensationalism that all the mundane stuff has been getting. I doubt it.
Yeah, well, we'll wait and see. I mean, this is heading for a second book, is it? Corroborating evidence?
I'm going to have get no choice now but to follow up on my earlier efforts, and my next book will probably be called something along the lines of Corroborated Evidence, the UFO Story of the Millennium. Something like that anyway, but it's just going to be a companion to the first one, because what I realise now is that my first book, it stopped dead right after the Hubble material. I kind of really just kind of let it tail off after that one. There you go, that's conclusive, you know, end of story. I've closed the book on it. But there was a whole other chapter of stuff that was going on, with sightings that took place in Illinois on the 5th of January 2000. And there's a documentary online by Daryl Barker, which is called The Edge of Reality. And it's all about these sightings that took place by multiple police officers. And it's a really in-depth documentary. So, I've went back and I've reviewed all that recently, and I've made startling discoveries which help tie in and dovetail my STS 103 research. So I've now included that in my civilian UAP report, which I've just put on my website, which is corroborating evidence at wordpress.com. And if you go on there, you will see, I think it's the leading document on the website, which is from the office of James Welsh, which is basically the preliminary UAP report, which is attached to all the documents that show my research on the redeployment sequence, and my discoveries, and some of the things that I managed to find on this sequence of photos that were taken just before the millennium. So, yeah.
Yeah, we'll get you to repeat that at the end of the show, James, so anyone wants to write it down.
Aye. So, yeah, I mean, as I say, I'm definitely going to have to write a follow-up now, because the information that I now have has just, it's been like taking a gremlin home, you know, and getting it wet and waking up the next morning. This is just filled with gremlins, you know. This is what one piece of evidence did for me. I managed to find something, and that led to a whole series of discoveries, and I've not finished making these discoveries yet. I'm still on my voyage of discovery with this at the moment. But I mean, before the show we spoke about the connections to Egypt and the implications that my research now has. I think humanity's in for a very, very big shock. Should this information make it out into mainstream, we're all in for a serious shock and a serious reevaluation of the history of humanity and who we are as a species and what we're doing here. So it has very, very far-reaching implications. And who's going to listen to me, just a wee guy to Glasgow? This is it, you know. It's not a story we'd be interested in, son.
Yeah.
You know.
I think you mean that, like, the general public will be shocked. I think there's a certain faction that knows exactly what's going on, don't they?
Yeah, you better believe it. But again, as I say, I'm working on a paper at the moment that I'm hoping to publish. I don't know when it'll be published. But I was speaking to Malcolm Robinson and Ron Halliday today, and I was telling them that I'm working on this paper. It's going to turn mainstream Egyptology on its head overnight. But it's not a paper that can be rushed. You know, I'm going to have to really take my time with this before putting it out, because it's very intricate, and it's very important that I don't mess it up or get any interpretations wrong. But just over the last 72 hours, I mean, as you know, I've been telling you, I've had a lot of weird phenomena going on, and over the last month, I seem to have been given a memory recall of my events and more clarity. Obviously I found out that my sightings on the 4th and 11th of December at 4:45 weren't coincidental. There was actually some sort of timetable that I was keeping to, because obviously now I know that my interactions on the 4th of December, when I had my flashback to the 4th of December, I realised that I was actually standing directly under the spotlight of this UFO right at the end of Wall Street. And the wall was in front of me on the other side of the road, so I realised that I was right down at the bottom of the street. But my only conscious memory is running halfway up the street and running into the house and getting my brother and his girlfriend to come out the path. So when I had the flashback, as I say, it took me right underneath the thing. And I thought, well, wait a minute, I don't remember that. But then I suddenly remembered that, obviously, both these sightings I was actually standing under a big oval white UFO. I thought it was an oval white UFO, but it wasn't. It was a spotlight from the UFO. So I realised straight away that on the 4th and on the 11th, that as I'm standing staring at this thing, that I was being observed as well. And then after I realised that, then I realised that on the 4th and the 11th, both sightings were at 4:45, and then for the first time in 21 years, I realised that the 4:45 enigma that I had wasn't an enigma anymore, there was something to it. And then I realised that I had missing time on the 11th. So suddenly I got 1, 2, 3 synchronisations or realisations all after the other that I was getting watched. These sightings took place at the same time, and then I remembered that I'd missing time on the 11th. So I thought, oh wait a minute, this is all a bit odd. And then maybe just, I don't know, 2 weeks ago, no, even 2 weeks ago, I had my second recall back to the events on the 11th, and I have vague recollection of seeing an entity coming through a screen of light when myself and my friend were lit up by one of these objects. And I'm now coming to the realisation that the big spotlight that sits at the front of these UFOs can be used to basically knock its victims to disorientate them, basically. So when this thing strobed, it strobed about 5 or 6 times at us, and it got stronger and stronger, and then this big flash of light went off. And as that flash of light went off, I remember seeing all this light bouncing about in every direction. And my pal said it was like glitter, or like an old style camera flash. And I also said it looked like light bouncing about in every single direction, all at the same time. So that was always my recollection of that, but when I had the second flashback to that sighting, I realised that when this strobe light went off, I've actually seen this light bouncing about in every direction. I've actually seen something coming through that light, and it actually bent its head as it came through. And the top of the light must have been 6 foot, 6.5 foot, and this thing still bent its head as it came through it. And at the very moment I've seen this thing coming through this screen, my eyes have looked away from it and looked at the fence. And that's when I remember, my conscious memory was always looking at the fence and seeing both my friends and my shadow on the fence. But our shadow had, there was a main shadow, but then our shadow had a shadow, had a shadow, had a shadow, had a shadow. So there was all these secondary shadows coming away on each side of our own shadows, so there was multiple points of light coming down on us. But as I say, when I had the recollection, I actually seen something coming through this screen, and I now recall seeing lots of smaller shadows run about me and my pal. So I honestly think that, when this light came off, we were taken, and then whatever happened, and then we were put back. So it explains the missing time down to a T now, because for 21 years my friend and I were convinced that we just lost that time that night with excitement, because we literally stood on football grounds for 2 hours, literally 2 hours watching UFO activity. But the time went in 20 minutes. But obviously it's been in that quick. You're like, well, where'd the time go? No, alright, well, it seems like 20 minutes. We'll make it 40. Do you know what I mean? Because we maybe get carried away with the time. We've maybe been here twice as long as we thought. That would explain it, But it didn't, because we left the house at 4:45 in the morning. The event itself would have taken, we believed at the time would have taken no more than 5-7 minutes. And we staggered back out that lane and then went down to meet up with my sister and my friend. But as I say, suddenly it was 7:15, and this is when the 3 tornado jets came flying over the top of Queen's Park. And we realised the time, so we're like, well, it didn't take us 2 hours to do a 10-minute walk and then to lose 50. So we lost over an hour and 20 minutes between us.
Wow.
And that same night, as we were standing watching these, and I actually turned to my friend and said to her, do you think that there's someone else on the other side of the planet that's seeing what we are just now? And then it turned out that when I'd done my research, that there was another UFO sighting taking place at the same time. The eyewitness described seeing the exact same things that we were seeing. So I found that very, very interesting, the fact that there was a simultaneous sighting taking place during my own sighting, whereby the eyewitness in the other part of the world is describing the exact same thing I seen. So I thought, well, there you go, you know. So that was that. So these were all the wee, obviously, it was quite an interesting series of UFO events. Even so, more so now that I know more about what happened. But as I say, 2001, I was all about, you know, exposing this and running about like a madman, and Egypt and pyramids, Egypt pyramids, aliens and Star Wars, you know, that's my cat, you know, that's my life, that's me all over, you know. But as I say, getting the book out, you know, I thought when I published that book in 2014, I thought that was me really taking things as far as I could take them and hanging up my hat and saying, right, there you go, that's for your forward age, you know what I mean, there's my tuppence worth. These things exist, end of story. But as I say, the last few years I've felt myself slowly getting drawn back into the subject, because I was sick of seeing the way that people were treating such a serious subject. And here we are today, so yeah.
Very interesting. Yeah. I'll tell you what, James, I mean, before you even started thinking about your books and seeing all were you actually interested in UFOs as a young man?
When I was younger, I used to read what was it called? There used to be a magazine that came out, The Unexplained or something, I think it was called, you know?
Oh right, yeah, I think we all had those, didn't we? I think I've still got one here.
Aye, you know, it was fascinating, you know, things like, you know, I loved all these really weird and spooky subjects like spontaneous human combustion, you know, things like that.
Yeah.
Every, you know yourself, every month or every week or whatever it is, you'd open it up and there'd be a new subject for you to get involved in or whatever. So yeah, I was always open-minded, but even when I was a child, I was pretty much obsessed with Egypt, from a very, very early age. And, what I could never get my head around was the fact that we could build these massive, elaborate pyramids way back, thousands of years ago, but we can't do it today. And that always puzzled me, and that always really had me scratching my head. I'm like, well, if this is the future, why are we making buildings that are just nowhere near as impressive anymore, you know? It's like, what's going on there?
Yeah, because they're so complicated. I mean, they're not just the shape of the pyramid, it's the way they're built inside as well, isn't it? That's, you know, the complex tunnels and chambers and everything else. That always fascinates me.
Yeah.
But, I mean, and obviously some things might come, out of that, what you just talked about Egypt, and that could be a story for later, mightn't it? For another time.
It's gonna, I'll put it this way, Egyptologists will not be happy, physicists will be rejoicing. I'm pretty sure of that. And historians are gonna have to just basically go around and collecting all the history books, pile them all up and burn them, and we're gonna have to start again. I think that's the long and short of it, but I mean, it's a case of, you get the likes of Graham Hancock, who I admire very, very much. He was a great inspiration to me. But I mean, the likes of Graham, he's one that talks about, you know, he says humanity has a hidden past. He says mankind has amnesia. There's a hidden part of human history. And, you know, it's right around the corner. We can't, it's not there. We can't touch it, but it's there. And Graham Hancock was absolutely 100% spot on with that assumption that we have amnesia as a species. The last 2,500 years has been basically a a restart for the human race. Even though we go back tens and tens and tens and tens of thousands of years on this planet. So there was different civilizations here a long time ago that's all quiet. And there was a global civilization at one point, which was destroyed 2,500 years ago with the Great Flood, deliberately. So this is I'm not stating all this as fact. I'm just stating this on basically the results of my research.
Well, I know you don't want to say too much about it because
the results of my research has basically led me to conclude that the flood was a deliberate act by God, as stated in the Bible. Everything in the Bible's true. Everything in the Quran's true. Everything in the Vedas is true. It's basically, it's all true, all of it. And it's the implications. I really don't think that the human brain has the ability or the cognition to wrap their heads around just how big this is. So I think this is why it's all kept secret, because I think if people were to really be informed as to where they came from, they might not like it, but it's something they're going to have to accept. And it's all part of the maturing process. So, yeah, I'm really looking forward to advancing on my Egyptological studies. And, I mean, literally, as I say, the last 24 hours I've been able to translate Egyptian hieroglyphs, and I've also been able to translate some Sumerian hieroglyphs.
Gracious.
Yeah, exactly, and I'm thinking, well, oh my God, what's going on now?
That must have even been a shock to you.
I will put it this way, reading the Sumerian was very easy, because all I was doing was translating it from the Egyptian, so it was the same passage, only written in, obviously, Sumerian. But I recognised it for what it is, because it's not exactly text, it's actually technical drawings that they're giving you. So they're giving you actually schematics and technical papers. So this is going to cause quite a stink when it comes out. But I've already got in touch with one of the Egyptologists for the UK, informed, because I watched a wee thing with her today, and she was going round the relief of the weighing of the heart ceremony, and she's talking about how, man's getting brought forth before Osiris, and so on and so forth, and all the good deeds he's done in his life, and so on and so forth. But she's absolutely talking out of a hole in her backside, and she doesn't know it. As far as she knows, she's going with it. She's been trained up and told. Right. And we've all learned over, when we were at primary school and secondary school.
Well, I hope she's not listening to this show anyway.
No, I hope she is, because it'd be nice, So, by the way, you got it wrong, you can go back and correct things now, But, no, I mean, at the end of the day, as I say, I never, obviously, when I started all this research, all I was trying to do was contribute my small part of what I've seen, and say, right, this is what I've seen, this is what I did about it, this is what I found out, bang, there you go, there's my contribution. But I didn't honestly think that this contribution that I've made, and the evidence and the discovery that I have now made, has actually led to a whole plethora of other discoveries through different scientific doctrines that all intertwine with one another. So, yeah, I mean, I'm still shocked. I mean, we could talk about we'll get into talking about what I found on these NASA photos.
Yeah, but I think I think the Egyptology thing is going to have to wait for another show, isn't it? Because I think you'll probably come up.
Yeah, well, definitely, because
you'll have a load to talk about then.
Yeah, but we'll get all that out in one show, because I think that'll probably take up at least a day of it anyway. But yeah, I mean, as I say, we're all in for a fundamental, a total wipe down, and resetting the table again after I come out with this information, because it's absolutely incredible when the public find out what we have been sitting on for thousands of years and just not realised. The ancient.
I think you might agree with me. I think it's been hidden from us, James, isn't it? I'm sorry to interrupt you. I think.
No. You're right. It's been hidden from us in plain sight. This is the bottom line. I mean, just to sort of knock it all on the head, is basically ancient man ran a worldwide advertising campaign, a worldwide billboard campaign to advertise to the future. To say, look, we are your forefathers, and this is where we came from, and this is what we have, and this is what we're giving to you. Mm. And it was laid out, and basically, again, as I say, if I go back to the weighing of the heart ceremony, and you have your jury of 12 jurors, which are made up of deities and humans. This was actually a vote which took place to decide whether or not we should be given certain information and certain technology. And there was a vote on it, and the vote was yes, but it was a close vote. It was almost no, a big nay, but it was a split vote, and we got the vote. And as I say, we've spent the last 2,500 years staring at these wonderful monuments and artworks and reliefs and all these texts and stuff like that. But we haven't put our finger on exactly what they are pointing to, but now I know. And as I say, when this comes out, it's going to put Egyptology, it's going to turn it on its head overnight. And I don't know if that's going to excite or terrify Egyptologists, but as I say, it should excite physicists. And it will make the world, raise more than just one eyebrow. So I'm very excited about this, but as I say, I don't want to go into it too much. I'm like, I'm buff. I'm, yourself, we spoke about it before the show. Yeah. So I have got a major reveal to still come out, which is totally, I was going to say it's totally separate from the UFO thing, but they're all interconnected, and this is where it's very strange, because obviously, I've got an interest in Egyptology, and I have an interest in ufology. But for them to cross over and actually be the one subject, is something that I didn't expect. Yeah. I don't think it's a thing anyone expects, Yeah. But it's all the one thing, yeah.
I think we have to admit that we do talk a lot off the show, so I do know a lot about what you're talking about. So, but I wouldn't try to tell anyone what you're talking about. I'd let you do that.
I don't even know what I'm talking about. I just don't know for it's off on it. This is how bad it's
I know,
these days.
But that's why I know there's a whole another show out of this.
Another show there, yeah, definitely.
And probably even a book from you.
I think it's a book in its own right, Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I'm going to have a busy few months ahead of me trying to knock all this together. I mean, I think I was talking to you the other day. I was saying I was trying to get myself booked on a plane to Lima, because I want to go out and see the museum over there with the elongated skulls of the Paracas tribe, which have got non-human DNA. So again, this sort of ties in with my research to do with the UFOs and to do with Egypt. And
just don't get certain people involved in that.
Yeah, I think I'll just sort of retire and lock myself in my house and just.
Because there's some people who jump all over it and think, I could make some money out of this.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, I can see the Discovery Channel, just see pound signs lighting up their eyes just now, this is me. I'll be on Ancient Aliens as a presenter before you know it.
Well, I hope so. I don't see why not. I like Ancient Aliens, actually. It takes you to places you'll never get a chance to go to.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, like, places you'll never go to, off the coast of Bimi in Japan, 25 metres underwater, I think it is, whatever it is. You've got these ancient ruins sunken off the coast of Bimi, and there, in these sunken ruins, there is an Easter Island statue in Japan. You know what I mean? So you're like, what's that doing there? It shouldn't be there. But yeah, I think I know why all this is where it is and why it's all sunken and et cetera, et cetera. But, cultures all over the world are in for a shock. You know, my sister even today talking to her about the Celts and what the Celts knew.
I mean, the thing is, James, you mentioned Graham Hancock, so even the likes of Eric von Daniken awoke people to those possibilities, didn't he?
Yep. I mean, von Daniken basically, you know, the thing about von Daniken is he boxed clever when he brought that book out in 1968, because the book wasn't entitled God Was an Astronaut. You know, it was a case of, was God an astronaut?
Yeah, it had a question mark on the end of it, that's right.
And all the way through his book, all von Daniken does is pose questions, and he puts questions to the reader. So he gave himself a nice wee, he insulated himself there. And, obviously,
but it made you think. It was one of the first books that I actually realised. It made me think what the hell was going on back then, you know.
Yeah. But yeah, there was a lot more going on then than we actually know or we're actually being led to believe. And I'll tell you this much as well, David, you know how they go on about all these ancient civilizations and how they were all primitive because they hadn't invented the wheel? Well, the reason they never invented the wheel was because they had something better. So that's all I'm saying at the moment.
Right, okay, yeah.
But, they didn't need the wheel, because they had something a lot more sufficient that worked.
Yeah, save that one.
We'll save that one for the next show, eh? So, where are we then? So we'll talk about these NASA things.
Yeah, go on to that bit then. I know it's all very complicated. Sorry for the listeners if it's getting a bit confusing.
No, it's alright, it's one of the ones, as I say, my head has been like...
No, I'm just thinking about anyone listening to this might be getting a little bit confused but it is rather a confusing story anyway, isn't it? It's not a sort of a beginning and end story. It does sort of shoot about all over the place.
No, and I'm not the best of people to tell that story. I'm so
especially with the Scottish accent.
Yeah. I'm honestly, it's so hard to try and pin down a thought at the moment with me because my brain has been operating in hyperdrive for 4 weeks now. But, right, so if we go back to, obviously, right, so I had the sightings December 1999. I found out about the Hubble photographs, and I published, obviously, 2012 I published the result of what I found on STS 103 73469, and that was structured UFO with the shadow of the Hubble telescope on it. And then obviously there's the other photos that were taken a few seconds later which show the structured UFO. So in 2014, as I say, when I published Corroborating Evidence, I was satisfied that I had made the case for a solid physical object in orbit. And I thought, well, I can't do much better than that. I've actually been able to go a step beyond what I expected to take my investigations, and now I've actually been able to find tangible evidence that prove that what I was saying that has some validity to it, because now I have a structured UFO in orbit and say, well look, there's supporting evidence to say what I was seeing that month in Scotland. So, as I say, it's only been the last month, or so, 6 weeks, 2 months, that I've started sort of dabbling back into this research. And over the last 4 weeks, as I say, I've had a serious memory recall, and unblocking, if you like. And as I've already explained to a couple of people, with regards to the memory recall, when it happened, when I had that flashback, I could actually feel the whole left-hand side of my head, like being relieved. It was like flushing. It was like a toilet flushing in my head. You know, you could feel something run down the side of my head and down my neck the minute I had the second I had that flashback. And ever since, I've been able to fire on all cylinders at the speed of light. And I've been a changed man over the last 4 weeks. And it's actually scared my family, cause I've just been frantic and like, I need to get this done. I feel like the rabbit, Alice in Wonderland, the Jack Rabbit. I'm late. That's been me for 4 weeks. But I keep telling them, everything's fine. Everything could not be better at the moment. I am feeling absolutely incredible. And I feel really relieved and elated. I feel as if a great deal of stress has been taken off me. Now that I'm able to see things with clarity and actually, as I say, make leap years advance on where I was in 2014. So,
I wonder if moving home helped you as well, James, because you were living in somewhere that wasn't very pleasant as well, weren't you, at the time?
Yeah, I was down in one of the not so nice parts of Glasgow, but I'm staying now on the very periphery of a big country park, and the amount of wildlife and everything I get down here, I've got like two pack of foxes that I help feed regularly every night, and it's very idyllic here, you know. You hardly hear a sound during the middle of the day. It's nice and quiet.
Yeah, well, that's what you need, isn't it? And that's probably helped you.
Very tranquil.
That's probably helped you a lot. Maybe that's maybe helped you sort of with your vision, your sort of mind vision somehow. You know.
Aye, well, I'm an Aquarian and I'm staying right next to a river, so yeah, I suppose it's got to help. Aye, definitely. Yeah, so I've had less distractions here, and it has been quite idyllic and peaceful, so a lot of calmity, you know, so, I'm just trying to think, I mean, as I say, my mind's racing just now.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if this was happening where you were living previously, would your mind be as active with it all? That's what I was trying to get at. I'm wondering if your mind would have actually sort of turned a lot of it off.
I'm not sure, because I mean my old place, the reason I liked my old flat was because it looked pretty much directly onto the area where I had seen all this UFO activity before. So I was always, I mean, if I was going up to my dad's house or if I was going to work or whatever, I would always be passing my sighting locations on a day-to-day basis. So I was constantly walking about the areas on a daily basis where I had all my sightings, so I was constantly reminded of all these incidents and experiences, you know. So,
Now wait, I'll tell you what, Joe, I've got a question that sort of crops up. When you had these experiences, do you think they were only visible to you at the time? I mean, because I do hear quite a lot that it only seems to be that certain people who are picked to see this vision see it, sort of thing, you know.
Aye, I know what you're saying. Well, Ron Halliday covered this in his, I think it was his 2013 book, which was Haunted Glasgow. And in that, he graciously gave me 6 pages or so to my account of what happened. And at the very end, as he's summarising, Ron states, he says, perhaps James opened up to these things, the occupants or whatever, and as a return that they responded. Now at the time when he wrote that, I thought, oh, that sounds awfully tinfoil hat wearing sort of thing, you know, that sounds awfully, you know, fringe material. And I wasn't, you know, overwhelmed with that. I thought, oh, I don't want, you know, that sounds a bit, you know, tinfoil hat wearing kind of stuff. But Ron was absolutely spot on in his assessment of what happened. Because I now know, just over the last few weeks, as I say, that I've been going back and rewinding that initial encounter in my head again and again recently. And basically what happened was, myself and my friend both saw, we were talking about each other, saying our goodnights, and suddenly we were getting this green, red and blue lights, and we could actually, they were very, very strong, really powerful red, green and blue lights flashing rapid from this thing. And as I say, when I've turned to it and I've looked at it and I've went, right, well, it's not a plane, it's not a helicopter, it's got lights, and it's not moving, it has to be a UFO, you know, I'm wanting a bona fide true UFO here. So as soon as I've realised that, I'm looking at the thing as it's still doing all these flashing lights, and I've consciously, in my mind, said to it, come closer. You know, come closer. Just thinking, you know, you know, that you hear, oh, aliens are psychic and telepathic and all this carry on. So I'm like, you know, come closer. That's when the lights all stopped. And then it suddenly jumped up, or shot up at 45 degrees, and then stopped dead. and the big light trail followed it up, and then recoiled back into it. And then it glowed again, but when I say it glowed, it was actually firing up its plasma engine or whatever it was, and it moved back down in the opposite direction, again at 45 degrees, and again leaving a big light trail behind it as it streaked across to its new position. And then it stopped, and the light trail stopped and joined it. And then it moved a third time across in a straight line back to its original starting position and stopped dead. So once it made these 3 points of the triangle, it then repeated these movements about 5 or 6 times really, really fast. And as it did so, it made all sorts of hoops of light in the sky that were obviously erasing as they were being formed. And it shot away over the East End. It was like, it shot away off at a big arced rainbow, a big wide arced rainbow across the sky. And then came out of this burst that it had done and continued travelling just like a star. Maybe miles and miles away, 16, maybe 20 miles away. We could just see it coming out this streak back into its normal floating along the sky, just looked like a star, like a satellite. So that was all very interesting. But I said to my pal, who was a bit freaked out by what we just saw. She was quite concerned with it all. And then I ran home with my dog, and I've got into my street, or where I stayed at the time. And there, at the end of the street, is another one of these UFOs. So as I say, my memory recollection of what happened is I ran down the street, threw open the front door and shouted, "Everybody outside now!" At the top of my voice, 5 in the morning, which led to my brother coming to the door, and he's like, "Shut it, it's 5 in the morning, job, dad's sleeping," so on and so on. But his girlfriend had come out in the path, and she had seen this thing with me, as it glowed and glowed and glowed, and then disappeared. So she got to see the tail end of it with me, but my brother never got to see it, unfortunately. But as I say, that was my recollection of what happened. And then obviously I phoned East Kilbride and Rutherglen police stations to make inquiries if anybody else had phoned up to report strange lights in the sky. But as I say, it was only a few weeks ago when I had the memory recall after the flashback that I actually found myself standing directly under the spotlight of this UFO at the end of the street. And that's what really perplexed me, is the fact that I'm saying, well, hold on a minute, I only ran halfway up the street. How come in this sort of flashback here that I'm right at the other end of the street? So I'm thinking, well, wait a minute, have I got a false memory planted here, So I'm thinking, well, if anything did happen on the 4th, then me and the dog were both taken, so my wee dog was an abductee as well.
Yeah.
God bless him. God bless his soul. So, but after the 2 sightings on the 4th, eventually, after obviously I spoke to my brother about it at length, and then we eventually fell asleep. I woke up that following morning after having an experience, well, having a dream, but it was more of an experience in the dream, and basically that involved me being in complete darkness. I was totally disembodied, and as far as I was concerned, I was just a pair of eyes and a consciousness, and I was looking out, floating about in the dark, just floating about, nothing below me, nothing above me, totally weightless. And eventually there has been a flashing of light ahead of me in this dream, and I've been watching this thing flashing as this sequence of lights flashing away. But I've been watching it for a long time, totally unconscious of the fact that I'm actually watching something. So after a while of seeing this, eventually I've clicked on in my dream, and I went, hold on a minute, there's something flashing at you. What is it? So the minute that I started sort of, squinting my eye, in my mind if you like, in my dream, to try and figure out what it was that I was looking at, I suddenly realised what it was that I was looking at, and realised it was a UFO. And at that very moment, it was as if somebody had put, high voltage cables into my bed, and gave me an electric shock, basically, because I was thrown out of my bed. I was literally thrown out of my bed. And my eyes, my feet hit the floor before my eyes opened. And my first words were, I need to get to Egypt for the Millennium. So I was quite freaked out, and obviously 3 days later I bought my ticket to go to the Millennium, to go to Egypt for the Millennium. But now, looking back, I now realise that the dream that I experienced wasn't a dream. It was subconscious trauma coming to the surface directly after that event. But that trauma, or whatever, that memory has been blocked. So, I realise now, obviously, that there was more going on with my initial sightings on December the 4th, 1999, than that honestly expected. And as I say, now that I started researching it, over the last 4 weeks, I started looking into it a bit more, and I decided to have a look at the human light, or the visual light spectrum. And then when I looked at that, I discovered that red, green and blue flashing lights, you've got your green and your blue are for infrared and ultraviolet light, and your red is broadcast strength waves. So I've realised that obviously in my very, very first sighting that I'm getting red, green and blue lights flashed at me, very, very strong ones. That this thing is not only monitoring me in infrared and ultraviolet, but it was also broadcasting and maybe receiving. So I think that, yeah, that maybe they're not psychic per se or whatever, but who knows. But the bottom line is these 3 lights, this thing broadcast, but after it made the triangle movement, and then it did these hoops of light in the sky and shot away. What's actually happened was, in the last 4 weeks, I decided that I'll have a look at the human light spectrum, or the light spectrum, to have a look at that. So I found out, obviously, about the significance of these green, red and blue lights. And within a couple of minutes of finding that out, I also simultaneously pretty much discovered, I was listening to a lecture on plasma physics on YouTube, and it was all to do with the UK Atomic Commission, I think it was. I can't remember the professor that was giving a lecture, but he started talking about, I'm away busy doing one thing on the internet, but I'm listening to listening to the lecture at the same time. And during the lecture, he starts talking about ion trails, negative ion trails. And I think he said the word plasma trail, so I was like, oh, plasma trail, boom. So I went right back onto YouTube, and there and then, just as you said this, on the screen is a diagram for a negative ion and a particle trail, and a plasma trail. It shows you the path that a negative ion takes, with its lateral direction, and then the sort of force that comes off it with this ion drift. So I've looked at it, and instantly I recognised it, and I went, that looks pretty much identical to what I saw on the 4th of December. So what I did was, the negative ion was, I've taken it, I've then reversed it and turned it upside down, to reverse the ion trail on it, so it was now a positive ion. And I thought, that's a bit more like it, because obviously when I seen this UFO, it moved in a clockwise motion. So this is what I was trying to replicate with turning the ion upside down and mirroring it, just to get that effect. So now that I've got that, I'm looking at it, and then I've sent it straight away to Ron Halliday and Malcolm Robinson, and I'm like, guys, look, boom, this is what this is. But then within a minute of that, I've unpaused the video and let it play on, and then as soon as it's played on, the guy's followed up, and he now puts the diagram up for a positive ion trail beside the negative one. And then they show you what they both look like. And I'm like, hold on a minute, if you combine both the negative and the positive ion pathways, and you combine that is exactly what I seen in the sky on the 4th of December 1999. So I'm like, whoa, so I looked it all up, and I'm like, hold on a minute. So when I've realised with the two ion paths, then I went to draw the diagram of the three movements it made to show Ron and Milky. And when I've done that, I've drew the 3 points, and then I went to drawing the 3 circles to represent the positions that the UFO moved to. And when I've drawn the 2 bottom ones, and I've went to drawing the top one, I realised what I'd drawn, and it was a triangle with 3 circles in it. And that's when I realised, hold on a minute, I've just literally seen this object, and it's not only has it drawn itself in the sky and said, this is what I am, then it said, this is how I work. So that was my first UFO sighting, the 4th of December 1999 at 4:45am. The thing told me what it did after me saying to me, come closer. So it's when I'm a big triangular UFO, and this is how I work on positive and negative ion fields. So that was a big revelation, finding that out. And as I say, it was only the start of all sorts of disclosures and revelations that I've had throughout June, which have led to all sorts of breakthroughs in my research that I never even expected to get myself involved with.
You'll be pleased to know I've got Ron Halliday on the show. I'm not sure it's next week or the week after. Week after, I think it is. So I'll very likely bring this up and ask him a little bit about it.
Yeah, I mean, as I say, I was absolutely just blown away at the fact that there again, I've seen this thing within seconds. I had communication with her, it communicated with me. But as I say, I mean, I don't know. I think that these entities, whatever, that were occupying these things, were quite impressed with me. You know, I think they gave me a job to do.
Yeah, well, it certainly sounds like it. I mean, obviously they've picked a person with that intelligence and that doggedness that you've got, that you don't give up, do you?
I think it was just my enthusiasm, you know what I mean? Obviously when I've seen that, I'm like, oh wow, that's pure cool, do you know what I mean? Hey, come closer, let's be pals, you know what I mean? You guys rock. And they must have sort of found that humorous or something, and like, this wee guy's right into it, do you know what I mean? This is, alright, fair enough, do you know what I mean? I mean, I've no idea what's happened or, you know, with the missing time or anything, but honestly I think that I was given some sort of, I conspired with these occupants I was given a job and a role to fulfill, and this is why I actually spent all the years researching and writing corroborating evidence. It wasn't really me, if you like, that was at the helm or the centre of all that. I think I was just like the tool.
Yeah.
To try and convey this. So yeah, I mean, I think I'm some sort of, I mean, as I say, I used to always think, my obsession with Egypt came from myself being a scribe in a past life. And I thought, honestly, I've always believed that that's what I was in a past life. I was an Egyptian scribe. And I was probably murdered for spelling something wrong or something, bad grammar, you know. But no, I mean, as I say, over the last month, I'm starting to realise, hold on a minute, I actually think I'm a scribe in this life and not a previous one. So that's been kind of shown to me as well, so I'm like, oh. But, I mean, as I say, I can't make head nor tail or sense out of it all, but as I say, I was able to make connections to physics with this, and I'm no physicist or mathematician or anything like that, you know, I'm not that, I'm a left brain kind of guy, you know, I'm a right brain kind of guy, I think, you know, I'm creative and all that, but I'm not analytical per se. But, as I say, some of the stitching, I like to, it's a term I've just invented, I called it scientific stitching, or scientific stapling, and it's where you're taking different doctrines and basically, essentially, making yourself a quilt, you know?
Yeah. I mean, that's what it's all about, isn't it? Because I mean, what we've normally done, what everyone normally does, everyone shares their research. You learn off of other researchers will pick your work up and learn from you. You know, and this is how we should be doing it.
Yep. I mean, there's an artist out there called Marcia Burke, and she does a lot of sculpting and artwork regarding the Mayans. And she did this artwork of a Mayan with an elongated skull. And it was, as soon as I seen it, the penny dropped again for me, and I was like, blue. I realised the colour blue played such a huge part in all of this, and I thought, hold on a minute, I've now been able to go back and explain the significance and the symbology of the lotus flower in Egypt, and the colour of the lotus flower. So there's a lot going on with all these sort of secondary fields of research that all this can now get sort of tapped directly into. So, I think I'm far from figuring it all out yet, you know. But you know I'm definitely getting somewhere.
Oh yeah, well you've definitely gone somewhere with your book, your corroborating evidence book. Now, your book, I mean, Ron Halliday actually did an introduction to it, didn't he, as well? And Malcolm Robinson did one as well, didn't he? Little introduction. But, as I say, it's a fascinating book. Now, is it still available, James, as a new buy?
Yeah, you can start. It's only available on digital download just now. It's as an ebook on Amazon. But I do plan to get my finger out and try and start doing another print run soon. And hopefully, you never know, I might get some publisher interested in approaching me with this news research.
Yeah.
Because it's definitely, it's not something that can be easily dismissed, and it has serious implications for the rest of humanity. And not only, basically, I'm part of a roadmap. Do you know what I mean? I'm like a road sign saying there's the past, this is the future. And I'm there to try and bridge the two of them, if you like,
sure.
By saying, look, I'm connecting this with our past. And it's important to connect with our past, because then we can understand who we are, and then we can figure out where we're going. So we'll wait and see, but as I say, I'm scaring the life out of my family at the moment, but they've literally no idea what I'm sitting on major breakthroughs just now, and as I say, mainstream Egyptology is going to be in for a big shock.
Yeah.
I think today, let's talk about today. The 8th of July, I've uploaded the video today of all the rest of my NASA research and the recent findings that I've made, which we really should talk about, actually, because I can't believe that I'm not talking about them, actually, you know what I mean? But yeah, let's just get right into the NASA stuff. Okay, so 2014, obviously I published the results of the investigation I did into the solid physical object that you see on frame 73. And I was able to establish, by going through all the other photos, going right back to frame 66, that there was indeed at least one solid UFO, which was very, very close to the Hubble and the Discovery during the redeployment. So that was as far as I was concerned in 2014, right up until this year, that there was that one major UFO nearby. But obviously through the month of June, I've went right back, looked at the whole sequence again, started to make a whole series of discoveries, starting with, I think it was the 8th or 9th of June. I found the shadow of it's called the Canadarm, and that is a big robotic arm that sits on the shuttle, which they use for EVAs and positioning satellites into orbit and stuff like that. So they used that obviously to manoeuvre Hubble out the payload bay and then redeploy it into space. And they've literally just let Hubble go, and the arm is still, extended, and these other photographs were then taken with frame 73, and on frame 73 you can see the shadow of this big robotic arm on the hub, on the shuttle. You see the shadow of that on the hull of this UFO. So I thought, well, there you go, there's another piece of evidence that shows that this is not a reflection of the interior, which I proved without a doubt 7 years ago. So I found that, and then I went right back to frame 58 in the sequence, frames 58 and 59, where you see the blue-white oval UFO. That's frame 59. The frame 58 was taken 20 seconds before that. And in that photograph, you can see 1, 2, 3 UFOs. And if anybody's listening just now, you go to, just type in your Google, STS 103-734-58, and then you can go up to the URL and change that to 59, and you'll get the two images together. Obviously, as I said, they were taken 20 seconds apart. In the first frame, 58, there is a massive UFO directly to the left-hand side of Hubble. And if you look at the bottom of the image, you will see that there are windows, blue and yellow windows. And then if you follow your eye up that side of the image, up the left-hand side, and you go up, you will see 2 grey entities. Now, I've sat on these images for 9 years, and I've never paid them any attention, and I don't know why. I think I've had some sort of ignore them, you don't want to know about them kind of thing.
Well, maybe they were so obvious, you just didn't notice them, you know.
It's so obvious. I mean, when you look at the original image and you see these 2 entities, they do look a wee bit ghost-like. They do look like apparitions. They do look odd. So as I say, I've always been consciously ignored them for some reason until the start of June this year. And suddenly I'm like, hold on a minute, you've got the space, you've got windows at the bottom of the image which show you that there's a craft there, obviously. And then you've got these 2 aliens right on top of Hubble. They're obviously looking out a window of this craft, and it's doing a flyby past Hubble. And these aliens are up against the window watching what's going on. Now, on the original image, on frame 58 and frame 59, when you see these entities, if you look at the back, they've got big elongated heads, or blue. They look like dolphins. They're the same colour as a nice, vibrant, healthy blue dolphin colour, bluish grey. So they're not just greys, they're bluish grey. More of a blue. Think Aztec, think Egyptian blue. That's the exact colour, and that's why you've got this is why Egypt and Peru and all that, South America, were all obsessed with this colour of blue, because it's the colour of the entities. But if you look at the back of their head, you will see that there's orifices at the back of this pointed, elongated skulls that they have. We'll get back into that soon, because obviously I'll just tap on this just now, actually. The entities themselves, as I say, these orifices at the back of the skull, suddenly I'm thinking, well, hold on a minute, there was other connections I made with the pyramids and UFOs to South America, but we'll go into that in a minute or so. Basically what happened was I was trying to, these UFOs use lasers as part of their cloaking ability. And what happens is they fire one laser right round the ship, which is basically the laser is, the whole ship is designed so that when they fire this laser round it, the laser actually travels right around the hull. And then they actually use another laser from a projection unit, which interacts with that and creates a palette, and they can create a screen. And basically, these projector units project space onto this craft. So when you see the craft, you don't see the craft, you only see the space round about it. And this is why when people see UFOs blink out and disappear in the sky, they're not actually blinking out and disappearing, they're actually just activating their laser shield. And they basically throw projections right around them of the available sky that is round about them. So they've essentially put themselves in a box, and they can sit there undetected. And that's a fascinating element of it all. Now you've got to ask yourself, right, what I discovered with these NASA photographs with this structured UFO, as I say, was that it fired lasers out the front of it. Now, the UFO itself has 2 trenches, one at each side of the front of it, which come down, and these trenches are sloped at an angle, sloping down and out the way as it comes out. And in fact, each trench fires 2 lasers down it. Now these lasers travel down the trench, obviously one's higher up than the other one. The higher up one's on the inside. And these 4 lasers leave the front of the craft, but there's also lasers which are projected from the sides of the craft, which meet these lasers at the front, and basically it projects this geometric shape around it. And because these craft operate on a magnetic principle, on magnetic waves that they're carried, the projection units are actually carried by magnetic spheres, which are carried by the craft's own magnetic wave. So, I'm trying not to lose myself again. I'm exhausted and I'm so easy to get myself lost. Yeah, so these lasers, I was trying to find the path that these lasers take, because I realised that the headlights of these UFOs, they have sort of like eyelashes, that's the best way to put it, above the lights. But I realised that these wee bumps and stuff like that, or these eyelashes if you like, where they're all smooth edged. So all this has been done to facilitate the path of the light when the lasers are fired. So I've realised that the whole craft, the whole fabrication and body of that craft has been designed to accommodate these lasers. And basically the whole craft is designed to be a stealth reconnaissance craft. And that was the whole, the whole ethos behind the design of this craft. The whole reason this craft was designed and manufactured was for covert operations on hostile alien planets like ours.
Yeah.
So you've got to ask yourself, well, why do they have to cloak themselves? It's because every time they come down here and they're trying to make their presence known, they're getting chased by hostile military aircraft out the airspace. So that's why they feel the need for coming down and doing these things covertly, because what they're involved in, what I've been led to believe, is that there has been a massive social engineering education program taking place since, the 50s, the 60s, with Betty and Barney Hill, I think, was the first proper abduction case. And they, as well as everybody else that's been taken from since then, are all part of this education program to try and educate and make humanity aware that these things are there, so that when eventually the time comes that we are socially indoctrinated enough that we won't all flip out. But the reason why they don't come down on land, is because at any given point of the day, half the world is asleep. So half of the world would wake up, if these things came down, half of the world would wake up the next day and freak their jeans. So half the planet would be freaked out straight away. This is how they kind of do it. This is how they kind of just come down on land and go, alright, how you doing? Because the rest of the world's going to wake up a few years later and flip. So it needs to be a gradual thing. It needs to be people like me that come forward and say, here guys, look, these things are out there. And, here's the evidence that supports what I'm saying. I'm not just a crazy guy with a tinfoil hat on or anything. I have researched this. I have seriously researched it. And I'm not a crank or anything like that. This is proper. This isn't me going onto YouTube and watching a video and then running about telling everybody that I've seen a video and these things are real, This is my experiences, my research.
Well, you can support it with NASA's own photos, can't you?
Exactly. At the time, obviously, I never get any photographs. At the time, when 99, it was, so camera phones weren't, mobile phones were just out. I think it was like your Motorola StarTAC. I had a Motorola StarTAC, actually, at the time of my sign.
Whatever that is.
Camera phone. Yeah, those were the days, eh? So, camera phones weren't even a thing back then, but as I say, I started carrying a compact camera, everywhere. As a result of this, because I thought I'm never going to get caught off guard again. If I see these things, I'm going to snap them. But I started realising after a while that this wee compact camera that I was carrying was absolutely useless. And then I went and invested in a digital Nikon SLR. It was a film. It wasn't a digital I got. I was traditionalist, old school. But I went and learned photography as a result of my sightings. I learned to develop photos. I learned about the relationship between light and dark and shadow, and so forth. So when it came to examining these NASA photographs, I realised that the education that I had in photography helped to play a part in my understanding of what was going on in these photographs. So, it wasn't a worthwhile, it wasn't a lost cause or anything, it was definitely a worthwhile exercise, doing the introduction to photography. So.
And also that education you had in photography came in handy with that investigation into the Larry Warren affair, didn't it, as well? With the photographs and everything.
The old, two-dimensional John Lennon, this is my pal, the cardboard cutout. And then he's got the audacity to run about telling Peter Robbins, oh no, it's real. Honestly, I'm only 20.
Well, 19 actually, yeah.
Anyway, Gary Heseltine still can't get his wee detective head around this, and him and Dion Johnson, running about, Cable Green's the real story about the true life of Larry Warren who went to 9/11 and, removed body parts.
Yeah.
We all know about that. So yeah, the stolen valor. So the man's a absolute.
Well, we await with anticipation for that film.
It'll be interesting to see but how they managed to. I mean, what I feel really sorry for is all these other people that they've got involved in it.
Anyway, I think I've exhausted you quite a bit tonight, James, haven't I?
David, I'll be honest with you, I was up to the back of 5 this morning, knocking stuff together, and then, the day I've just been absolutely, my battery's just been so dead, after trying to get all, it's literally a month's work, 18 hours a day pretty much for every day for a month I've been at it. But yeah, as I say, the NASA photos, what I've found now, not only confirms my 2012 findings, but it actually showed a hell of a lot more than I expected to find. Are you alright with talking about this?
Absolutely. It's up to you. I don't want to sort of exhaust you. You can...
No, not at all. I'm trying to stay on point. This is it. Stay on point and we'll be alright. The bottom line is I've been back to Frame 58, as I say. We found the alien greys, 2 of them. So, I decided that, it might be a worthwhile exercise to try and get these photographs cleaned up a wee bit. See if I could get them rendered to see exactly what these things look like. So I did that, and I don't deny it at all. I'm quite open to tell everybody, yes, I went to a professional photoshopper and said, can you render this image? Can you clean it up? Can you sharpen it? Can you bring it into focus a bit better? Can you bring it up more detail? That's all I was wanting. It was like, can you enhance this photograph?
Not can you stick something on it for me?
Yeah, what happened was, so I gave the guy the brief, go away, I think there's something there, go and have a look, clean it up, get back to me. So the guy gets back to me, this was with the 2 EBEs, I call him Adam, and he's wee pal Adam and the ants, I call him. But I call the main one Adam, seeing he's the first proper alien on a real NASA photo. This is what I can't understand, is why the world's press is not banging down my door when I've just released a real NASA photograph of a real extraterrestrial biological entity, weeks after they come out and said that they found no evidence that these exist, and now I've just provided it. But, it's all quiet at the moment, and I think it will stay that way if there's any playing it. Honestly, seeing my video getting removed, I can actually see it getting pulled, David, to be honest with you, because what happened was, after I found these aliens on this frame, I went back and, I'm jumping the gun again. I've got the results back for the Photoshopper, and he's like, alright, there's your photo, I've rendered it, boom, there you go. And I've looked at it and I went straight back to him and I'm like, mate, what are you doing? I'm like, this isn't an art project. I'm like, honestly, I'll get the screenshots, I'll put it up. I've cracked up at the guy and I'm like, mate, this isn't your own art project. You can't go doodling all over this. I'm like, this is an official NASA photograph. And this is for presentation to the public. I says, I can't have you doing your own artistic interpretations of it and your own wee doodles, do you know what I mean? I'm like, this isn't, so playful, you know? And the guys get back to me and he's like, no. He says, I've done nothing of the sort. He says, what happens is he says, during the rendering process, he says, as you're cleaning the image up, he says, sometimes you'll get dead pixelation. With the likes of the alien grey with its eyes, you can't see its eyes properly until it's been cleaned up. So obviously as you're cleaning that image up, you'll have to remove some of these dead pixels away that are kind of overlapping one another and stuff. So I'm not the best person to explain how you render a photo, but I can understand what the guy's saying is that basically as you're cleaning the photograph up, you need to hoover up the crap that's on the photo, the dead pixels and stuff. So that's what he done. He never done any artistic interpretation on it whatsoever. But it did say that at the end of the day, he says, at the end of the day, you're rendering the photo. He says, so what you're doing is you're doing a two-dimensional reconstruction of the image. He says, but at the end of the day, it's still 50-50. He says, it's a fine line. He says, it's a fine line where you draw the line. Because you could just keep going and you could end up with, anything on that page if you just keep messing about with it. He says, there comes a point where obviously you need to draw the line and say, right, that's that rendered, so to speak. I was absolutely, blown away with, the results of this, photo rendering with Frame 58 because not only did it show clearly two alien EBEs, but in the rendered photograph, but when you go to the original, you can pick out 10 points of articulation on this being, which show that it is a biological entity. This is before I've even done any rendering on the image, so essentially I'm doing is saying, go to that NASA website, go to frame such and such, and you will see that these alien entities, and you'll see 10 points of reference on these alien entities. I have now went to the trouble of rendering that photograph so you can see that image in greater detail. And I've provided both side by side, so I can say, well look, there's a rendered photo, but in the original you can still see them, you can still pick out the articulation. So it's not as if it's a case of people can accuse me of just, making stuff up. The biological entities are available on that frame, which is STS 103-734-58. If you type that in, go to Google, type that in, and you will see these two aliens.
And also, the originals there, someone does doubt you, they can go and do it themselves, can't they?
That's the thing about it, is that this is publicly available information that anybody can check, so that it's not a case of they need to come to me or buy my book to get this information. What they need to do is type in the serial code to Google and you'll see it in their own eyes. So that's the simplicity of my research. It's a case of, the video that I've just put out today, literally I'm using two sources for that entire video, and that is NASA and Darryl Barker, the filmmaker, who gave me the rights to use some of his Illinois material, because it ties in with the STS 103 research, because it's the same thing that was seen in Illinois that is seen on the Hubble photographs. But it's the same phenomena, and it's the same phenomena that I witnessed during that month. So all three cases all tie in, and this is why I decided that I was going to put these three cases, because what was it, the UAP task force, whatever it is, they ended up looking at, 126 cases. They're looking at, bin bags and, you know what I mean, all sorts. Oh, a pilot's in a bin bag, a pilot's in a barmac phone, you know, but I'm locked into it, you know. I'm like, no, I'll just keep it nice and simple. I'll just give you 3 cases, my own, the NASA case, and the Illinois case, and I will show that between these 3 cases, there's a commonality between the 3 of them. It's a one common source, and I've been able to lay down, not just corroborating evidence, but corroborated evidence. And now, as I say, this has all opened up doors that to places I didn't expect it would take me. And as I say, I'm trying to write this paper, which is going to rewrite Egyptology overnight. And
yeah, I'm betting you'll be up after night writing some of that as well, won't you?
Oh, you know me, David, that's never a dull moment, you know. But yeah, as I say, going back to Frame 58, I was actually really, I mean, okay, right, so there's me all through June, starting to learn new stuff. I'm getting memory recollection, I'm making discoveries. The discoveries are actually making me then think about certain things which lead to more discoveries, and then the more discoveries lead to more thinking, which lead to more discoveries. So it was a total chain of events that was going on all month. There was definitely something going on with regards to the information that I was getting and putting out. And so I felt, well, I need to go with the flow. Basically, the way I was saying to my sister, she's like, and my brother there will tell me, you know, take your time, you know, just go on. I says, well, it's hard, I says, when you're trying to drive at 5 mile an hour, I says, but you've got a car up behind you doing 80 and it's pushing you along by its bumper. You know what I mean? I'm like, it's so hard to go at 5 mile an hour when somebody else is thrusting you down the motorway, you know. So, as I say, Frame 58, not only is there biological, I mean, it's not just the 2 biological entities that you can see in that photo. There's about 6 or 7 that are visible. But you need to actually get down to the bottom of that frame, where you see these other windows, the blue and yellow windows on that frame. And if you not enhance the image, but if you enlarge the image to the bottom, and you will see that there is an area there where there are 4 window arches, but you can only see 2 windows. But you can see the tops of the 4 window arches. And that told me that basically 2 of these windows were occupied. So when you actually look at it, you can actually see that 2 of these window spaces are actually filled up with 4 or 5 entities, all standing up at the windows, as well as the 2 guys that you see up the top of the frame. So there was literally thousands of aliens in orbit during December 1999. Wow. Thousands of them. And I mean, as I say, I'm still, you know, my jaw's still on the floor as to what I turned up on Frame 58. Because when I got the photo rendered, and as I say, in the background of Frame 58, you will see just underneath Hubble, you will see a very small blue and orange light away in the distance. I was actually convinced that this was another one of these triangle UFOs, or platforms that was in the background. And so I've said to, obviously, the first freelancer going to enhance that area, I think I can see something. And he did, so he gave me back, but it wasn't a triangle UFOs I thought it was. It turned out to be a absolutely ginormous, gigantic, massive, structured cube, which, I mean, I wouldn't go as far as saying it's the size of the moon, but it's not far off it. It's not far off it. It is huge. And the results of that, it's all up now on my website, as I say, corroborating evidence at WordPress. Yeah, this massive cube mothership structure was revealed to be in frames 58 and 59 after rendering. So I found that, and I was absolutely blown away at the fact that there's this big massive cube in orbit as well as all these UFOs. But then the other night, when I'm trying to get the timeline of all the photographs when they were taken for the video that I've just uploaded today, to obviously accompany the work that I've done on the website. So I was trying to get all the times for all the photographs in which they were taken, and I started making a note of them all, jotting them all down. And then I noticed in the book that I had also taken a note of frame 65 and what time that was taken. And that was a frame before I started investigating from frame 66 onwards. So yesterday I had the inclination to just go back and have a look at the frame 65 out of sheer curiosity, just to see what was on it. And soon as I've opened the image, you've got obviously what's going on in the photograph. But it looked to me like there's a big, massive shadow right over there of this cube. But again, I mean, I could say, yeah, that's that cube, it's a shadow of the cube, but people could say, no. But, that's fair enough. But, I decided, because I'd went back to frame 65, that was me, that's what got the ball rolling, and, so next thing you know, I was like, went at frame 64, frame 63, frame 62, and I made my way all the way down to frame 55 and 54. In fact, I made my way all the way down to, I think it was frame 49, I think I went as far back as. But, I'm going off on a tangent again. If we look at frame, STS 103, 734-54 and 55, you will see that it is a photograph of the interior of the shuttle, and you can see one of the astronauts, working on what looks to be manoeuvring the robotic arm or whatever, and he's looking up at monitors and stuff. In the photograph itself, you can also see the window, one of the top windows of the shuttle, and in the background you see 3 or 4 sets of lights. And I'm looking at it last night, and I'm like, a couple of nights ago now, sorry, and as I say, I'm like, what the hell is this? And I started looking at it in the dark, as I say, and then I started to see what looked like the cube again on frame 54 and 55, and I thought, oh, hold on a minute. And then it looked to me as if all these UFOs were actually sitting on a hangar bay. And I thought, oh, wait a minute. So I've actually drew the outline of it, and I thought, wait a minute, I think I've just found this bloody cube again. I think, the one that turned up in frame 58 and 59, I'm thinking, well, hold on a minute, never mind frame 65, I now have evidence of it on frame 54 and frame 55. So, straight away, again, got in touch with Malcolm Robinson, Ron Halliday, and I'm like, guys, they're getting like their 55th million message that morning to me freaking out, honestly, every 2 minutes, it's block capitals, never, help me. Yeah, so basically I got in touch with them and I'm like, guys, you will not believe it. I says, I've done it, I've knocked it out the park, I have found the mothership, I've got it on frame 55, I says, it confirms what I've got in frame 58, that it is real, do you know what I mean? It's like, cause I had trouble believing that this cube was there, do you know what I mean? Me of all people, do you know what I mean? And I'm like, well, if I've got trouble believing it, then so is your average Joe, But to actually find confirmation of this cube on separate frames all together was just like tying a big red bow on this big present that I'm sending it to NASA just to say, right, well, can't I find any evidence? Have a look at your own photographs. That's maybe a good place to start. So,
but do you think they already know they're there, James?
Oh, they know for a fact. On the mission resource tape for that mission, Flight 96, it's called Flight 96 Post-Mission Debrief, Flight 103, and I think it's John Grunfeld that's given the talk on the highlights of the mission, and they take you through all the EVAs and all the stuff they've done on the different days and what the mission was all about. And in this footage, you actually hear John Grunfeld say to the audience, it was a NASA audience that he was giving this to, and obviously it was Christmas Day that this happened, and at one point, this is a bit, he actually says it. The footage is of, I think it's of Scott Kelly, and he's wearing a Santa hat, and he's looking out a window and he's waving. And that's when John Grunsfeld says, oh, we had a special visitor at Christmas. And the original footage, you used to hear everybody in the room laughing. And some wee private joke, ha ha ha, very funny, you know. But, for those that don't know much about the UFO subject, it has been long established that the term Santa Claus was always used as a code word for alien spacecraft. So the fact that obviously it's Christmas Day, you know, and that's a good excuse to wear a Santa hat, but it's also a great excuse to say, oh yeah, we had a special visitor that Christmas, and then they're all wearing Santa hats and waving out windows. But it's not as if they're waving down to earth, they're actually waving out these things as they're all flying past the window. These things were there from 9:30 right up until pretty much 12 o'clock. And this is only from the photos that I've actually managed to establish this in. These things were up there paying very, very close attention to what NASA was doing. So there's no way on earth that the astronauts were not aware that these things were out there, because they actually sort of allude to them in the post-mission brief. Or even though, you know, I cannot prove that. Obviously it is tantalising, you hear them mention that they had a special visitor that Christmas, which I find very interesting. But again, as I say, going through these photographs, you just know that there is absolutely zero chance that these astronauts were not aware that these aliens were right up, I mean, they were literally 1 foot, 2 foot away from the orbiter, looking in windows. I mean, I've got one photograph, I'll need to dig it out. There's one of the photographs on the sequence where you can actually see the reflection out the window, but you also see what appears to be the reflection of one of these aliens looking out their window, and you're seeing their reflection bouncing off the orbiter window. And it's just sort of thing like for the neck downwards, or the chin down to the chest, that's all you see reflected. But it shows to me that obviously this other window is really up close to the orbiter window, and you've got something looking out the window in the other ship into the window that the photo's been taken out of, and you can see a partial reflection. So I'll get that evidence up as well, because again that ties in with the EBEs on frame 58 and 59, because again it shows that even, you know, even in the rendered and unrendered photograph for frame 58, this other photograph matches both. So it's further confirmation that these entities are real. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, why would NASA even want to come up with a sick joke like that? You know, it's not as if they're like, right, we've got the mission photos back, we'll have these for all prosperity for mankind, let's doodle a couple of aliens and UFOs on it just to noise people up in the future. Yeah. You know, there's no way they're going to do that. But again, you've got the likes of your communications manager, Jägermeister, or whatever, Jägermeister, can't remember what his name is. He's an idiot, he's a twat, and he's also a liar. But yeah, he informed me, just 7 weeks ago, I don't know, but I got in touch with him, and I sent him all my material on the shadow of the Hubble telescope. I've explained the science behind it, and said, look, you know, at the end of the day, light does not pass through solid objects, the laws of physics still apply in space, etc., etc. There was only two things up there that could have caused these reflections, and that was your orbiter and your Hubble. And it's not the orbiter, it's the shadow of the Hubble you're seeing, you know, and I've laid it all out. And he gets back to me and goes, congratulations on finding reflections. So you're like, listen mate, I've not just went, that's an alien, and that's a reflection, end of story. I laid it all out and said, no, look, there is why I am correct. But all they have to do is just get back to you and say, congratulations on finding the reflection. And this is like 9 years after they were coming out with the same excuse about reflections. And that's what drove me to do all that research, to say, right, well, I'm going to prove it's not a reflection, I'm going to prove that as a solid physical object in motion, which I did. And then when I went back to them, went, yeah, that's a solid physical object in motion. They're like, congratulations on finding a shadow. So you're like, you know what you meant to do. So, they're just going to keep denying it until such a time as it's really thrown in their face, which is what I was hoping to do with this latest research, and go, look, yous are lying. I mean, it drives me crazy when I see these NASA scientists coming on and doing talks, and they're getting all excited about finding water on Mars and stuff, and I'm like, guys, yous are accurate. They know about these things. They've known for a long time. I think they've always known. And it's Richard Dolan alluded to it about a breakaway civilization. So I'm not sure if that is the case. I'm not sure if humanity still is being run by a bunch of evil, Satanist energy, if you like. I mean, at the end of the day, oh God, I don't want to go open in that.
Yeah, you don't want to go too far in that.
I
think you're probably on the right lines. But we'll leave it there.
But yeah, the bottom line is they've known about this for a while. They've kept it quiet for humanity because I think they don't want humanity finding out, because I think humanity would have a hard time adjusting. And this is why it is the biggest secret of all time. But as I say, I was hoping that UFO secrecy will start ending as of today, and we might get a bit more transparency for these people in light of the recent non-bin bag, non-737 commercial airliner footage that I've put out, But, again, I don't know, the public's got a very short attention span. And I think that's all part and parcel of the control system, It's just like, you don't want to know about that,
Yeah.
So again, I mean, I have no idea if me trying to get in touch with the press and saying, look, this, that, and the next thing. I don't know if there's some sort of notice, some sort of like, classification that, certain news cannot get put out. So I think what I've got, I mean, it would be really nice, to get in touch with a media company and say, I get this NASA UFO research, will you, put it out there? No. Why not? Or because, it's sensitive and there's like, there's, things set in place to stop information like that getting out. Well, cheers, thanks for letting me know, you know what I mean? But, no, at the end of the day, I mean, we're living in the 21st century. I've only been new. I know exactly, the 21st century, kidding everybody on. But, I mean, yourself, I mean, technology, we're coming on leaps and bounds. It's harder for them to keep this quiet, with the technology, and I mean, we've got, Twitter, Reddit. I mean, I put the stuff out on Reddit today. I thought Reddit was really going to make a big impact, and the whole thing would be pretty viral by now, but no, I think it's only had something like 60 views. Well, I mean, if you look back, I was just going to say, if you look back to my original STS video where I've exposed the shadow of Hubble, I think that's only had something like 100 odd views. It's been up for about 9 years.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing is, James, I think once somebody does really notice there's something going on here, apart from you, you could have a lot of people knocking on your door like, at some point, if it does start getting out.
Aye. Well, it'll be interesting to see what happens with it, but I mean, at the end of the day, what really gets me is the fact that I approached MUFON with this information years ago, and only to be chastised by the image expert who told me that I knew nothing and he'd 30 years experience, and therefore he knew better than I did. And that was hard to take in the chin, but I knew I was right and he was wrong. And now I feel absolutely vindicated that the fact that, I was right and he was wrong. And you know what? We all make mistakes, but it's just, we need to admit them, move forward. And I just feel that maybe this information might have made it more mainstream, had certain people have sat up and take notice when I try to, pull their coattails and say, hello, but, sadly you and I both know, David, that, there's, egotism seems to run rampant through ufology.
Yeah.
And, I
think it's not with
myself,
most people, I find. I think it's just certain ones. Yeah.
Yeah, certain ones. Not everybody, but yeah, it's very, very prevalent in ufology, and it's sad. It's everybody as well seems to stick to their own thing. Like, I'm not going to name names or anything, but if I go to XYZ with my information, they're not interested because they're all doing their own thing independently and they don't want involved. So this is what the problem is with ufology, is everybody's too busy doing their own thing. There needs to be a collective effort between everyone that needs to be correlated and put
this is
together.
what I was saying earlier. Everyone needs to share the information. Really, it's that's the only way we're going to get anywhere. Really. Mm-hmm. I learn everything from everybody else.
I'm really surprised over the last few days just what I managed to pick up, just doing Google searches for things and actually finding all these different clues and Babylonian handbags and you name it.
That's another interesting thing.
It's even in like Hindu illustrations of the deities and stuff like that, I understand the symbolism in these images now, and that has helped me to piece together this picture, which again helped me understand that what was going on at the Temple of Dendra just the other night. So this is what my next paper is going to be on. It's going to be on the information which is contained at Dendra and other major sites across the world, and the information that they actually passed on to us thousands of years ago, which has been lost in translation. And I don't know if that's deliberate, if that's all part of the UFO cover-up, per se. But it's a very, very fascinating overlapping of both these fields of study. So it'll be interesting to see how that develops.
An interesting person you might like to talk to is Michael Feely, actually. He's been on this show a couple of times. And he is very knowledgeable about ancient Egypt and other ancients and all the monoliths and everything.
Aye, I'm dying to get back, as I say. But my next protocol, I think, is I'm going to try and go over to Lima as soon as they start dropping the restrictions.
Anyway, James, look, you've given us over 2 hours of fascinating subjects here. It's
just get one.
I know you. Yeah, I know. I think we've got enough for another show later on. If you want to carry on for a bit, you can. It's up to you.
No, all good.
I didn't want to sort of exhaust
you. I'm just, that way I could keep talking, but in essence, to try and sum it all up, in 60 seconds, I would say, okay, right, so I had these sightings.
It's just that we can't remake this into a 5-hour show, because I think it might be a bit much.
Yeah. So the long and short is, I had all these sightings, I wrote the book, published that 2014, expected that was it, done and dusted, but as I said, recent events with regards to the UAP report getting published and everything, and all the evidence that was getting bounded about, which was just second-rate evidence, really motivated me into going back in and having a look at this, and the results, as I say, now that I've had this memory unblocking, and the research that I've uncovered over the last 4 weeks is phenomenal. I've not only now been able to present the first official NASA photograph in the history of humankind with an EBE on it, which is available to the public. There we go. It's like everybody talks about disclosure, and NASA disclosed these two alien entities on this photograph on a public server in 2010. 11 years ago. 11 years ago they put this information out. Do you know what I mean? And I'm only, I mean, I can't believe that I'm just coming into this information, but I've known about it the whole time, so that's a mystery as to why. There must have been some sort of mental blocking for these characters, and I didn't want to look at them, I didn't want to know, because I was told not to go near them, but now that I know what they are, and both I've had this amazing recollection, and as I say, the luck of the Irish when it comes to the discoveries I've made. But I also, in all of this, I also realise why I now like staring at my cat all the time. Me and my cat have pure heavy staring competition. But I've realised that this is something to do with the EBEs, and they're big eyes. I mean, they just look they've just got big cat eyes, man. If you go to my website, obviously, go to Corroborating Evidence at WordPress, and you go through, you will find Adam. They've got an actual paper on that called Finding Adam, and that'll take you directly to the picture of him. But as I say, the evidence is there. It's on the NASA web pages. You don't need to rely on me.
Now that corroborating evidence site, is that actually corroborating dash evidence?
For the website, I'm pretty sure it's corroborating evidence at wordpress.com.
Right, okay.
Pretty sure. So hopefully you should get that. But as I say, I've done about 30 articles this month, trying to put this big jigsaw together and try to break it all up, because I realised that if I try to just write one blog and try to put all the information in one blog, it would have just been like cosmic spaghetti. Do you know what I mean? It would have been so hard to wrap your head around it. So yeah, I've just done it into bite-sized pieces of information and start with a frame at a time and stuff like that, and then all the cross-reference stuff. But the majority of it's sort of all encapsulated in the 9-minute video that I uploaded today, showing that all the findings that I made in these photos. So hopefully it gets to do the rounds, and hopefully it's all over NBC and ABC and CNN and BBC and Channel 4 and Channel 5.
Let's hope so.
You know, before we know it, but I really don't think so. As I say, you know, I mean, my brother, my sister, my father, they were all kept saying, we're worried about your mental health if you know, you put this out and it doesn't go the way you want it to go. And I'm saying, well look, that doesn't matter. I'm saying it doesn't matter if it goes the way I want it to go or not. That is irrelevant. The only thing that matters is that I meet my target and I meet my deadline and I get this information out on the day that I want it out. And I've done that now, so I've reached this point of it all where I can sort of catch my breath.
You're doing what you need to do. I mean, if you walked away from it now, that wouldn't be good for your mental health, would it?
No, it would not be good at all. I mean, as I say, I really feel rejuvenated over the last month. I mean, I've been waking up in the morning. I mean, I'm literally opening my eyes, my pillow, and then realising it's another day. It's another day of discovery. So I've been waking up excited to go and make new discoveries that day, every day. That's all June, all into July. I'm like, I mean, the other day I was getting more information the other night, and when that hit me as well, I thought, oh my God, we're into July now and I'm still getting channeled information. I thought, what's going on here, you know? I thought it was there and done with. But I think that something's been activated in me, and with my memory recall, maybe what I know. I mean, my brother, obviously, my brother says, look, now that you know, obviously, you're taking this, I think you should go and get counselling. And I'm like, well, obviously, because I used to suffer with panic attacks, and now I know, I think, why I'm suffering with panic attacks. So he's like, obviously, you've got trauma. But, I mean, obviously, I think I was maybe a bit freaked out when I first seen these things or whatever, but obviously, they calm you down and whatever it is they do to get you to chill out and, immobilise you and tell you to shut up and whatever it is they do. But, the long short of it is I don't really feel that I need counselling per se, because I feel brilliant. I'm not going to go to a counsellor and go, oh, I feel like a victim, oh, I was anyway probed by the aliens, you know, none of this nonsense. I feel brilliant. I know that I've got a part to play in all of this. I know that I'm part of a much, much larger universe that is not as empty as we thought it was. And I know the amount of planning and precision that has went into this 21-year plan by these EBEs. the meticulous planning that they set up is just unbelievable when you actually think of the scope of how much thought process that they put into stuff. It's absolutely phenomenal. But I mean, again, it's so hard for us to wrap our head around. I mean, I cannot wrap my head around. See, when I found out that I'd been taken, and then I realised the responsibility that it gave to me, yes, that day I broke down and cried, humbled, with gratitude and thanks, and just, I felt so humbled, David, that the fact that I had been bestowed this responsibility by them. And I thought, my God, that's one hell of a... I mean, my dad was like, oh, do you think you're the chosen one or something and all that? And I'm like, no, it's no like that. I'm saying, but at the end of the day, I'm like, I said, something did happen to me. I've now got evidence of it, you know, so on and so forth. And now, my mind's been open to stuff and I'm seeing things differently. And as I say, I've been able to, go through, the weighing of the heart ceremony, and I've been able to go through some Egyptian reliefs at Dendra in the Temple of Hathor, and I've been able to read them, and I'm going, hold on a minute, when did I start, when did I learn to read hieroglyphs, do you know what I mean? And then, after I understood what I was reading in the Egyptian hieroglyphs, I went back and looked at a Sumerian scene, and I looked at, and it's the same scene, but it's a Sumerian tablet this time. And I was able to read the Sumerian cuneiform. I was able to understand what they were saying in these etchings, based on what I knew from the Egyptian one. It was just basically I was translating it from the Egyptian into that, because again, it's not exactly writing, they're illustrations. They're showing you how to lay down cable and stuff like that. You take this cable, you fold it over, you twist it, do it again, so on and so forth. And all it is, it's like IKEA instructions for building a wardrobe, but except this is something a lot more technologically sophisticated. And it's not just a light bulb. So, yeah, I'll be putting this out soon. And it's, as I say, it's either going to excite or terrify mainstream
yeah, I think it's exciting. I mean,
I think it's
see,
exciting.
on a personal note, I can actually hear that you're more alive now, because I know you from quite a few months back, you were very depressed. So I can actually hear the life back in yourself. You know.
I mean, I'm still suffering I'm still recovering for this really bad hand injury, and that was depressing me. The fact that, you know, I might end up crippled with this hand for a while, but. See, now I'm like, it's just a hand, do you know what I mean? I'm not bothered about that, you know, I'm serving a higher purpose here, do you know what I mean? I'm like, oh God. But, basically, I'll be doing a big paper on all this at some point, but, basically I am seeing the genetic code of these aliens in everything. And that's going to upset a few people as well, because obviously it's like, you know, Darwinism, apparently Darwinism and evolution's a proven thing, you know. I mean, I don't, argue that we have evolved, per se, but I mean, it still comes down to that argument, creationism or evolution, and, it's creation. And then evolution. So we have evolved from being created. We were all just cavemen, and we were upgraded. And then we started agriculture and farming and Gobekli Tepe, that kind of thing, all this, and started society, if you like. And then we were upgraded again at one point, but that went really badly. And that was the result of your elongated skulled people, your Nefertari, your Akhenaten, your Tutankhamun. You had a reign for a while of these elongated skull-headed people living in Egypt and other parts of the world, like Peru, South Africa, and but they're no longer here. And you know, at one point they inhabited pretty much all corners of the earth. So we're going right back to the Veda texts, and again, the Bible, the Great Flood, all these things are historically accurate. They did happen. And there was a reason why it happened. You know, the Earth was basically plundered or flushed of this genetic experiment that they did that went very badly wrong for them. So they decided to get rid of it before that species became a threat to them or us. So yeah, I know I sound I'm going off on tangents again, but the bottom line is that there's absolute logic and, you know, these things in the Bible, stories about the Anunnaki and giants and all that, they're all true. Everything's true. And yeah, as I say, mankind is in for a real big awakening and a great reset. I mean, I think it was meant to be, was it last year people used to talk about the Great Reset and all that. It's definitely coming.
Oh yeah, the Klaus Schwab thing, I know, yeah. That's another story again, isn't it?
Yeah, so we'll know about it soon enough, but as I say, I'll be putting this paper out, and then when I put that out, I will definitely be sending that off to mainstream Egyptology so they can send me lots of angry emails telling me that I'm just one of these new age conspiracy nuts, and they you know, congratulations on finding modern reflections, you know. Something along there.
Anyway, you'll have to come back on the show when all that when it kicks off.
Yeah, we'll get that sorted, because as I say, it's so hard to try and pin down where I'm at with this, because I'm getting torn in all directions at the moment. You know, I'm trying to look at stuff in Egypt and I'm getting dragged away to something else. And
well, I'll tell you what you need to do now, James. Go and have a good night's sleep and wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning again to get ready to go again.
Aye, and I think I'll be having an early night, because I've just been, as I say, I've been at it, I've been up all month, and I have been, you know, a man possessed for a month, and I'm trying now to get my breath back, because there's only so long you can be manic at, you know, full strength before you end up crashing, you know. So that's where I'm at the moment. I think I'm about to sleep for a month.
Right, one more time, give us that, was it corroborated evidence?
It's corroborating evidence at wordpress.com.
Yeah, and you'll be able to see all those photos that you're talking about, and all the description and everything else, won't you?
Yep. And again, I've got the YouTube channel as well. If you just go to corroborating evidence on YouTube, you should be able to find my videos that I've uploaded in 2012, 2014, and obviously my recent research that I've just put up as well. So, and
one more time, your corroborating evidence, the book is available on Kindle, and the paperback is probably not available new at the moment, but you can probably find second-hand copies, maybe.
I'm going to organise. I mean, I did plan on doing an upgrade or updating the book, but now I'm going to basically, I'll be updating that and obviously producing the follow-up, which is corroborated evidence. Yeah. So I'm not looking forward to penning that, because I had no idea that I would be going on to pen a second book based on the first one, which the first one, I regard corroborating evidence now as the trailer for the book I'm about to write, because it's basically that all that research was just an introduction for what's to come. So that's where I'm at the moment.
Yeah, well, good luck with all of that. I think we'd better leave it there, James.
Pleasure, David. Always a pleasure.
I'll probably be talking to you again tomorrow.
Aye. That's done when I get my voice back.
Anyway, good night, James. Thanks very much, and hope everyone's enjoyed listening to that.
Yeah, sorry if I kind of failed off in tangents here, there and everywhere, but yeah, I'm brain dead and undernourished and underslept. You know, this is that. It's sleep deprivation. It's the effects of sleep deprivation after a month.
Yeah, I'm sure all the listeners will understand all that. I know where you're coming from. All right then, James. Thanks very much.
Oh, pleasure. I'll talk to you soon, David.
You take care of yourself, James. Cheers.
All right, mate.
Hope you enjoyed listening to that, everyone. That's James Welsh on Paranormal Dimensions on the Paranormal UK Radio Network. I hope you enjoyed that. I certainly did. I need a drink now. Good night, all.
I think it is just a matter of time till we find them, or maybe they find us.
Dimensions is a regular feature on Mondays on the Paranormal UK radio network.